Quick story to start. A product shipped a small UI toggle set to on by default. Nobody thought twice until downstream automation started treating that as a contract. Customer segmentation shifted, billing rules fired, and 3 weeks later the team discovered they had effectively altered pricing rules for a major cohort. The fix was messy and expensive. That's the kind of surprise I want you to avoid. Today, the default audit, one ritual that turns every default into an auditable, reversible policy before it ships.
I can picture it. A tiny default, then suddenly your model retrains on the new distribution, and your ops playbook is obsolete. It feels like an invisible policy slipping into place.
Exactly. Core insight in one line. Defaults are policy, not just UX. They route behavior, they train automation, and as systems scale, they harden into constraints. If you treat defaults as ephemeral convenience, you build a system of brittle commitments. So, how do we prevent that? The default audit is a lean, repeatable ritual you run before any release that introduces or changes a default. It has 3 moves and a fast pilot. Move 1 is the default token, a rigid one-line token that documents the default, so it's auditable and reversible.
Walk me through the token. I want something copy-pastable I can hand my release manager.
Here it is. Default token format. Setting. Owner. Behavioral expectation. Rollback primitive. Keep it a single line. 3 paste-ready examples for your release notes. 1. UI visibility toggle. Settings. Show advanced analytics. Owner. Product 1 p.m. Behavioral expectation. 5% opt-in. No change to billing rules. Rollback primitive. Flip toggle to off via feature flag and notify cohorts within 24 hours. 2. Model confidence cutoff. Models. Fraud score threshold equals 85%. Owner. Risk lead. Behavioral expectation. Less than 1% additional manual reviews. Rollback primitive. Revert threshold to 0.9 and enable manual override until recalibration. 3. Partner opt-in. Integrations. Share metrics with partner default equals true. Owner. Partnerships PM. Behavioral expectation. Partner sees anonymized aggregate only. No PII shared. Rollback primitive. Set default equals false in partner config and notify partner within 48 hours.
Those examples are gold. The rollback primitive is the linchpin. Having the exact lever named prevents vague promises, like, we'll fix it later.
Move 2. The behavioral model. Ask 3 rapid probes about any default. Who changes it? Which automations or incentives depend on it? And what's the single observable signal that proves harm? Answer those in under 5 minutes and you'll know your containment options.
Let's make that concrete. If you ask who changes it, you might find product, MLOps, or a partner integration. For dependents, the list could include training pipelines, billing scripts, customer success playbooks. For the harm signal, pick one metric, an observable, business-level signal, like spike in disputed charges, % of failed automation runs, or user churn in a cohort.
Right. Use the answers to choose containment. If only product UI toggles it, a release note default flag and a shadow cohort might be enough. If a model training pipeline consumes it, you need a rollback leash and a short circuit in the retraining job. The point, mapping dependence changes your response from hope to plan.
And do not skip the single harm signal. Multiple noisy metrics will delay decisions. Pick the one observable line that, if triggered, forces a rollback.
Move 3. Enforcement and AI patterns. 3 pragmatic controls you can deploy immediately. Shadow cohort, release note default flag, and rollback leash. Shadow cohort means roll the default to a small human-only or internal segment first. Release note default flag publishes the default token in the release notes so it's visible to stakeholders. Rollback leash is a pre-written revert action bound to the token and owner, ideally a single command or feature flag flip that anyone on call can execute and that has a known provenance.
Teams often skip shadow cohorts because they think it slows launches. Do it on internal or low exposure segments with a tight time box, 48 to 72 hours, and a required signal threshold to justify full rollout. That protects velocity while making defaults learnable.
2 constrained AI prompt patterns to speed dependent mapping and rollback drafting. Use them only as assistive drafts and require provenance lines plus a human verification step. Prompt A, dependent enumeration, constrain for provenance. Given the setting in repository, and service list, services, enumerate likely downstream dependents. For each dependent, list the code path or automation, file, job name, config, one line of evidence from logs/configs, and a confidence score 0 to 1. Return no items without at least one provenance line. Prompt B, minimal rollback primitive, constrain for minimality and confidence. Given dependent list D and current rollout plan P, propose the smallest rollback primitive that reverses behavioral impact with minimal blast radius. For each proposal, return the exact action, command, feature flag, or config change, one-line justification, and a confidence band, low, medium, high. Limit to 3 proposals. Always require a one-line human approval before automated actions are executed.
Important mitigation. Constrain the prompts to require provenance lines and a confidence band. That reduces hallucination risk and makes the AI output verifiable by an engineer or product manager.
Okay. Pilot and fast action. A simple 7-day script you can run this week. Day 0. Pick one imminent default in your next release. Add a default token to the release note draft. Day 1. Run the 3 behavioral probes with the owner and a systems engineer. Document answers in 1 page. Day 2. If downstreams are suspected, run the constrained AI-dependent prompt and validate provenance lines with the engineer. Days 3 to 5. Deploy a shadow cohort to an internal or low-risk segment with a strict time box. Monitor the pre-selected harm signal daily. Day 6. If harm signal crosses threshold, execute the rollback leash action. Otherwise, proceed and publish the token as final. Day 7. Retrospect. Capture lessons and update token templates or rollout rules.
Make this a mandatory pre-release checklist item. Small teams can enforce it via CI gates or a required field in release docs. Token empty equals blocker. Audit a sample weekly so tokens don't become checkboxes.
2 final operational cautions from the risks we see. First, teams will try to turn this into a form-filling exercise. Mitigate by keeping the token minimal and requiring an explicit rollback primitive and owner. Audit samples each week. Second, shadow cohorts must be small, time-boxed, and on low-exposure cohorts to avoid blocking velocity. Third, AI outputs need provenance and human verification. Never accept the mapping blind.
If you run one small experiment this week, add a default token to your next release note and run a 48-hour shadow cohort. It forces clarity, creates a rollback plan, and preserves optionality. Patterns create power. This one buys you optionality.
That's the default audit in 10 minutes. A default token, a rapid behavioral model, enforcement moves, 2 constrained AI patterns, and a 7-day pilot. Make your defaults explicit, auditable, and reversible. Clarity is leverage. Add a default token to your next release note. Require the owner and rollback primitive, and run a shadow cohort. Subscribe to the Agentic Executive if you want more operational patterns like this. Stay agentic.